often look at a guru, somebody outside of ourselves, to help us fix ourselves. Now, spiral 4 is when we start getting sovereignty. This is a very important part of Aquarian living. Sovereignty means that I am my light, I know my light, I am responsible for my light, and I am the final determiner what is right for me. So a different way to say this is soul discernment. Does this fit me where I am now, or does it not? And this is where you really begin to feel sovereign, and you'll be able to very much be in your own soul's growth. And then spiral 5 is embodied integration, where you are living your soul's truth every day, all day. And a lot of people don't get all the way here. It's usually a lot of work, a lot of understanding. Now, even though this sounds like it's hierarchical, it's not. We go between spirals all the time, especially in the world today. With the way it is, a lot of us go back to spiral 1 or 2 who were living in spiral 3 because it's such a scary place. But there are always tools and ways to get beyond that. Now, the reason why I'm revisiting these spirals is because of my relationship with my mother. Now, when I was young, throughout my life actually, my family dynamic was very abusive and very crazy. And my mother was not supportive of me in many ways. She never showed me love. She didn't hug me. She was very sarcastic and mean to me, and she favored my brothers over me. She was not loved as a child. She didn't know how to show love, especially to her girl child. This was a problem all my life. Now, when I was in spirals 1 and 2, I responded by trying to please her. I responded by holding who I was back. I responded to her in the same way I responded to her as a child. Now, I was in spiral 2 when I had my beautiful, beautiful daughter. And in that place, I fit myself, or tried to fit myself, into that relationship with my mother in a different way at first. And it finally came to a head when I told my mother, I had gone to Florida to visit her. We had gone to Florida to visit her. And I got so angry, I yelled at her and I said, if you don't want to see me again, you don't have to see me again if I'm such an awful person in your life. But if you don't see me, you're not going to see your daughter. And this was the beginning of the change in the relationship between me and my mother. And spiral 2. Now in spiral 3, when I started my awakening, I knew I had to heal the mother wound. So I spent a long time working through that, and as I worked through that, I was able to have a little bit more enlightenment, a little bit more understanding of who she was, because of her childhood and her own life experience. She had a hard life. She grew up in an abusive situation as well, and she had also suffered some abuse as an adult. So I had this understanding and compassion towards my mother in spiral 3, which allowed me to forgive her, and we started to strengthen the relationship a little bit. I still didn't have any really good memories of her or fondness of her, but I could make peace with her and appreciate her for the life that she lived and the fact that she was my mother. Now, when I moved into spiral 4, this came at a time where she was beginning to suffer some dementia. And we moved her, before we moved her into an assisted living, I was the one who was, I would call her every day and talk to her every day. And she really started showing appreciation for me and showing me some love. And that was beautiful, and I enjoyed that. And even though she had suffered depression most of her life, as her dementia increased, she for some reason became more content. Now she got to the point where we had to move her into memory care or into assisted living. And then I would call her and she would tell me how much she loved me. I would send her cookies and pretzels, her 2 favorite things, and she would just rave about me and how I took good care of her and how much she loved me. And that was really nice. And I would visit her in Ohio, and we'd have a good time. Now her mind wasn't completely there. She had different memories, but what we shared together, I could enjoy. And then recently, I've moved into Spiral 5, and we moved her into memory care. Um, and that was hard because it was harder for me to contact her, and she didn't really remember anything on the phone. But and then the time arrived where we had to move her into hospice, or she stayed where she was, but she moved into hospice care. And I got a call from the hospice nurse about a month ago saying, your mother had a bad fall. She's bleeding. Um, uh, she was bleeding from her rectum, and she was vomiting, and she was very, very weak. Her blood pressure stayed very low for a couple days. She wouldn't eat. She just basically slept. And the nurse told me this might be a good time to come and visit because she's still basically conscious, but we don't know what's going to happen. We don't know if she's going to rally and quickly decline or if she's going to get better. We have no idea. Now, I live in St. Thomas. That was a full day of travel. So I knew it was a good time to go. So I went. She was getting better, and so I went to visit her, and I didn't even know if she was going to recognize me. I walked into the room. She didn't remember my name, but she certainly remembered who I was. And so I had brought her some cookies and some pretzels and some flowers, of course, and she actually ate them. And I reached out and I held her hand. And I held her hand for the entire time I was there. We talked a little bit. She watched TV a little bit. I could feel the energetic transmission, believe mostly the rosary, which I will talk about next, when we were together. And it was lovely, and I was so happy I took the time to go and visit her. And then when I kissed her goodbye, she looked a lot better, and I felt a lot happier. When I got back to the hotel room, I was sitting and just reminiscing a little bit, and in the Spiral 5 place, and a memory came to me that I had never remembered before, a memory of a happy time in my childhood with my mother. And it was so rich and so beautiful. My mother loved sewing. That was her hobby her whole life. And I had this memory of being 4 or 5 and going to a fabric store with her. And I remember being in the fabric store, and I remember opening the pattern books to see what we were going to pick out. And we picked out a pattern that had a mother and a child version. And I remember picking out some bright, colorful material. I remember the smell of the pattern. I remember the smell of the store. Picking out the little, the zigzaggy kind of trim and the buttons, and just feeling the love and care of my mother. And when I even remembered us in the outfits and how much fun it was for me to be dressed like my mother. And that was her expression of love. And before this time, I had never had a memory of myself that young being loved by my mother. Now, this is the beauty of spirals. If I had stayed in 1 or 2, or in that very narrow-minded idea, that ladder of what life can be, you heal yourself, you're okay. But no, I had expanded into seeing my mother and my relationship in its entirety. And I believe while I was holding my mother's hand when she was napping off and on, that was probably a memory in her mind, in her being, that came through to me. And I am so incredibly grateful. So when we think of spiral time, it's not linear. It's not just now. It's everything that we've experienced. And when we go back and revisit something that happened in the past, we're revisiting from the place we are now. And so we are constantly updating our memories. We're constantly finding new things. And we're constantly understanding what a beautiful place this world can be. So that's Aquarian age spiral living. Thank you.